Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Brad Taylor. I'm the ambassador for the Harwood Salons Raleigh, and we are affiliated with the American Institute of Economic Research, or for Economic Research, and we're very happy to have you here tonight. We will be welcoming Dan Garza with LIBRE. Before I get into a little bit about the introduction of Mr. Garza, just wanted to let you know that we are with AIER, and what AIER is an organization that promotes entrepreneurship, free markets, classical liberal principles, and it was started in the 1930s by a guy named Colonel Harwood, who was pushing back against policies of the New Deal, and he took on his namesake, who were previously the Bastiat Society, and another not well-known individual. However, he was an influential French economist in the 19th century. Now, we did have a lot of success. In fact, we were one of the 4 chapters we started in 2020 with the help of Professor Michael Munger, who was here, of Duke University, and Richard Salzman, and some other very prominent people in the community. And we were so successful that AIER decided they were going to take us on more directly. And despite that, we still are operating independently, where we are not shy to ask for contributions. So if you could take a minute sometime tonight and consider making a $25 donation, it helps to defer the cost of this wonderful facility. This is the McGregor Downs Country Club, and today is October 8th, 2025. So I just wanted to let you know we also have Ryan Lacey here, who's the manager of donor relations at AIER. And Ryan, could you just take 1 minute and just kind of let us know what you're doing with the AIER folks here in town?
Yeah, welcome everybody. As Brad said, my name is Ryan Lacey. I'm the Donor Relations Manager at AIER. AIER is America's oldest free market research institution. We were founded in 1933 to fight back against the New Deal. And Colonel Harwood took, he had an immense personal cost to fight against the New Deal, and I think AIER has been fighting those sorts of battles ever since. We exist to promote economic freedom, free trade, and sound money. We do that through our research, which is state of the art. It's absolutely cutting edge. We train hundreds of students every single year, both in our campus in Great Barrington, Massachusetts, and around the country. And then we do things like this. We communicate with local communities across the country, here, Nashville, Dallas, Phoenix, San Francisco. We also publish. We have thousands of media hits every year, and we're going even into state houses and Capitol Hill to help educate staffers and congressmen on important issues like the Federal Reserve. And so thank you so much for being here to experience part of what we do. We hope you enjoy tonight's program. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So tonight we're thrilled to welcome Dan Garza. He's the president of the LIBRE Initiative, a passionate advocate for economic freedom and Latino communities. From his roots as a migrant farm worker to serving in the George W. Bush White House and hosting Univision's Agenda Washington, Mr. Garza's journey embodies resilience and impact. Join us as Mr. Garza shares LIBRE's vision for why Latinos are embracing economic liberty and inspires us to champion policies that unlock opportunity for all.
Well, thank you so much for that introduction. Great turnout, considering we have a full slate of Major League Baseball playoffs going on. I don't know what you guys are doing here. But it's terrific that I could be here in North Carolina. I'm a big fan of this state. It's such a beautiful state. Every time I come over, I very much enjoy nature here. been at the Billy Graham thing, and it's blown away. It's just every little home tucked away in these little sort of cute little hills. It's incredible. It's very Disney-esque, and so you guys are very fortunate to live in the state. Let me tell you, I'm very fortunate to live in Texas for other reasons, but glad to be with you today, and glad to see the team from LIBRE here. Gerardo and his team are doing a fantastic job of course, promoting a lot of those principles that have made America strong. So, and that's why I came to talk about is America, really. 250 years now, that we've been in existence, and the story of America has been one really of unprecedented prosperity, of self-governance, and human thriving that has ever been written. It's a story of global dominance and military might that I don't apologize for, of once really unimaginable scientific progress and extraordinary educational attainment. And it's been a story of man's struggle to preserve its God-given freedoms. The story is in danger of being rewritten. If this generation as inheritors of the American Revolution fail to take their rightful place in the long line of its defenders, 250 years after the American Revolution, the rise of an ever-growing, all-powerful, centralized government threatens our economic freedoms, of human progress, and our hard-fought individual freedoms. This top-down alternative to governance, where we centralize all power, more money, and more control in the hands of Washington politicians, unfortunately has millions of adherents. And the most influential purveyors of this approach are really university professors who are working diligently to indoctrinate students that we as parents dutifully send to their classrooms. Those of us who see how good we have it, how it is freedom that drives progress, must do better in its defense. Which is why LIBRE exists. But let me go back to the American Revolution really quick. Even after the American Revolution, many people were still not sure if the founding fathers had set in motion, what the founding fathers had set in motion was going to work. And in fact, the American idea of a government of the many and not the few was often referred to as an experiment. But John Adams believed in the American Revolution was not merely the war that was fought to separate our bonds from England, but a radical change in the minds and the hearts of the people. This greatest hits collection of freedom-minded principles enshrined in our founding charters were the foundation of a new nation based on Republican principles and an emphasis on individual rights. Benjamin Rush wrote in 1787, "There is nothing more common than to confound the terms of the American Revolution with those of the late American War." The American War is over, but this is far from being the case with the American Revolution. On the contrary, nothing but the first act of the great drama is closed. It remains yet to establish and perfect our new forms of government, and to prepare the principles, morals, and manners of our citizens for these forms of government after they are established and brought to perfection. General George Washington put it succinctly, "To form a new government requires infinite care and unbounded attention, for if the foundation is badly laid, the superstructure must be bad." The revolution led to the creation of new government based on Republican principles with a focus on the separation of powers and the protection of individual liberties. The war had far-reaching social and economic consequences, leading to changes in land ownership, in class structure, and economic opportunities. And it essentially came down to all power is derived from the people. It is of importance to circulate these ideas as it leads to order and good government, said Rush. And in fact, which is one of the reasons why the LIBRE Initiative has as its slogan, limited government, unlimited opportunities. You can just get government out of the way. To this day, America continues to be that nation where anyone from anywhere with nothing has the opportunity to achieve anything. And I think that's, in essence, the American dream, right? It's in the mind of the individual, what that dream is, what those aspirations are. And it's not the aspirations of a politician for you, but it's what you seek to achieve. But 250 years later, we find ourselves facing two very different directions that are being offered as a future course for our country, two distinct approaches. And it is no small thing. In fact, it has been my life's work to resist one of these approaches at all costs. There is a competition for the future of our country, and the ideas on governance that win out will help define the look of our nation for generations to come. The first one is the paradigm of empowerment. We choose to be in America where everyone can succeed. A bottom-up approach where people are trusted to innovate, to trade, and benefit from a free market system that rewards competition, risk-taking, and customer service. Where we all rise by serving each other and unleashing innovation in a society of mutual benefit. Or the paradigm of power. A top-down approach where the elite control your behavior, your faith, and your children, and those who believe that for their side to win, the other side must lose. The connected, the politically favored, and those who bow down to a new order get favored status, and others are made to submit by using the coercive machine of an all-powerful government. Will it be all of us, or us versus them? Do we offer people a fair shot to succeed? Or will it be a system where if one side is going to get ahead, the other must stay behind? Just like identity politics. Do you want government leaders focused on empowerment or on power? For as John Adams said, there is danger from all men. The only maxim of a free government ought to be to trust no man living with power to endanger the public liberty. Will we have more and more redistribution of somebody else's earned wealth, or focus our efforts on redistribution of knowledge and opportunity? Will we uphold the liberties and the freedoms enshrined in our founding charters, or will we submit to a top-down, rules-based new order? Well, I've chosen freedom for my country. I don't know about you. And if you agree with me, you're going to need Latinos to get there. But we can't fight off the formidable forces who are promoting a paradigm of power unless we can answer the question, what is it that unites us? What is our common ground as Americans? And the truth is, divisions in this country threaten the very core of who we are as Americans. We've just lived through a decade of identity politics, and the damage done is real. When people are taught that the country is made up of oppressors and the oppressed, you lose the notion that America is a country of we the people, and it becomes a country of us versus them. Fragmented. America's roadmap to freedom must continue to be those founding charters that have been tested and proven true. Our Declaration of Independence, our Constitution and the Bill of Rights, expressions of an elaborate set of ideas and institutions designed to safeguard human life, freedom, and dignity, from the nation state and the rule of law to the institutions of science, health, and learning. America is the promise of a diverse, dynamic, and free people. The Constitution provides the framework for achieving it by protecting equal rights and guarding against abuses of power. But it has also been true that while the principles that motivated the Declaration of Independence were noble, their application was at times flawed. It was tragically limited, and many times by government itself. Over the past 250 years, each time our country has more faithfully applied those principles to all people, we've made a steady march toward progress and unlocked unprecedented human flourishing. When they have been violated, we've seen our darkest hours as a country. Decades ago, Latinos were very much on the outside, looking in. It's why we had to march, why we had to protest. Sometimes do things that were uncouth to try to get attention from folks, to petition government, like school walkouts, boycotts. Today, those principles face grave threats from extreme elements across the political spectrum. Shockingly, too many political figures are instead taking an ends justifying the means approach that tramples individual rights for partisan gains with renewed calls for failed ideas such as socialism. For far too long, we've allowed voices to pit one American against another, and we have remained silent while entire groups of Americans are demonized, and the other groups are used as props to gain political power. The Latino community for too long was used as one of those props by too many on the radical left, imposing an agenda on the Latino community that was not a priority to us. But they made it seem like it was. Well, enough of that. You know, when you're neglected, you know, it makes things worse off. And I sense the pendulum swinging back. But that's only because there is a new conversation that is occurring within the Latino community that is a return to American principles, that is a return to we the people, and that we must unite and fight to preserve our American principles of economic freedom. We must lock arms with fellow Americans to restrain government spending, government growth, and its increasing reach into our lives. For every rule, every law, every statute, every mandate is to control your cake. That's exactly what it is. Robert F. Kennedy said, "This is a day of affirmation, a celebration of liberty. We stand here in the name of freedom. At the heart of that Western freedom and democracy is the belief that the individual man, the child of God, is the touchstone of value, and all society, all groups and states exist for that person's benefit. Therefore, the enlargement of liberty for individual human beings must be the supreme goal and the abiding practice of any Western society. Government, by the consent of the governed, as in our own Constitution, must be limited in its power to act against its people, so that there may be no interference with the right to worship, but also no interference with the security of the home, no arbitrary imposition of pains or penalties on an ordinary citizen by officials high or low, no restriction on the freedom of men to seek education or to seek work or opportunity of any kind, so that each man may become all that he is capable of becoming. What the American experiment has shown is that when you allow people to leverage their skills and their talents through open competition, their vast capacities will amaze you. They will create wealth never thought possible. My parents came to America before I was born. They saw it really as the promised land. They knew that they could achieve in America what they could not achieve in their country of origin, Mexico. And that through hard work and perseverance, they had a vision for their lives in America. And like millions who had come before them, as far back as the 50s, my father and mother saw it as a land of opportunity. I think, I like to quote Woody Guthrie's song, the stanza in the song about the Jones family in Steinbeck's East of Eden, The Grapes of Wrath. The other one was James Dean. But in the stanza he says, and they came to the mountaintop, and it was a rich green valley with a river running through it. And it looked like the promised land. There was work for every single hand, they thought. There was work for every single hand. And that was America to my parents. It was a land of opportunity. It was a land where they could work hard. And they worked hard. They were farm workers in the Central Valley of California. They didn't speak English, or at least they didn't start speaking English. They never made it past middle school. 4th grade was as far as their school went in the little rural area of Nuevo León where they were from. By the late teens, they had received their green cards, and it changed everything. It changed everything because it opened up America to them. My brother and I had to join my parents in the orchards and the fields of California and Nebraska and the state of Washington as we grew up, and our family was one of millions who had toiled as farm workers throughout America's history. Millions who had worked hard, rain or shine, to make sure seeds were planted, fields were cultivated, saplings were irrigated, fruit trees were pruned, and blossoms were thinned, that fruits and vegetables were fumigated, kept warm from the cold, picked, sorted, packed, stacked, and transported to market. And so like many of you here, my parents worked hard for many years to save enough money only to risk it all in a small business. In a few short years, my parents' successful plunge into entrepreneurism meant our family could now pursue educational opportunities and fulfill our own aspirations as children. But it was really hard getting there. I mean, obviously I'm fast forwarding, but in the 10th grade, I remember getting called in to the counselor's office, and Ms. Diaz sat me down and she said, you know, kid, I hate to tell you this, but this is a serious conversation I need to have with you. And she showed me my transcript, and it kind of looked like a checkerboard. There was a bunch of black and white squares on it, and it said, take a look at your absences. You're here every other day, and then sometimes you're gone for entire months to either Mexico or Nebraska following the crop season. So unfortunately, she says, I have to tell you, you're not going to pass the 10th grade. And so that stinks. Ms. Diaz, what happens next year when I have to do the same thing over again? I don't get to choose. And she says, well, you're just going to have to pass the 10th grade over and over, or you're just going to go through the 10th grade over and over again. And that was my last day of school. There was no sense in continuing going to high school. I'm a high school dropout, is what I am. 33% of Latinos do not have a high school diploma. Latino adults in America. 30% of us only speak Spanish. In some states, 40% of us don't have a driver's license. And millions, as you know, don't have citizenship or legal status. And the rate of illegitimacy now is at 50%. Half of Latino children are born out of wedlock, which of course then creates other problems. And so, you know, I had to take a hard look at my life and start making better decisions and have serious conversations with my parents. And my second chance was getting a GED, a general equivalency diploma. And it changed everything. It got me back on track. I went off to high school, or to college at Central Washington University. I got a law enforcement career. I ran for city council. The Republican Party came calling because I said something conservative. And they were excited about that, and I was excited to join the party. I only mention that because it was through that that I was able to somehow, some way, work for the Bush administration at the Department of the Interior. And I remember just working hard because I felt I didn't belong there. I felt I was taking somebody else's place. And I was appointed because of the work that we did for candidate Bush in the state of Washington. And they were really pleased with the results that we had. And I remember coming in, I was the first to come in every morning and I was the last to leave. I made sure that every I was dotted and every T was crossed, and you know, just worked hard to not be exposed as that one guy who shouldn't be there. I had read this thing in the Brookings Institute manual about political appointees. First thing to do is just relax, he says, because the first 3 months you're going to ask yourself, what are you doing there? Right? Well, what am I doing here? And the next 3 months you're going to ask yourself, what is this guy doing here? it turns out that fear that you had, there is something wonderful on the other side of fear, right? If you can confront it, if you can tackle it, you embrace it, and prove yourself. And when you get that chance, when you get that opportunity, seize it, right? And a year and a half later, I get a call from the White House and say, "Kid, we've heard about the great things you're doing at the Department of Interior. We want you over here working for the president." And it floored me, shocked me, just that would happen. And I had the incredible opportunity of working for the president at the White House, at the Office of Public Liaison. And I remember thinking, man, 17 years old, and I'm a high school dropout with no prospects of a professional career. And 17 years later, I'm working for the most powerful person at the White House. What kind of country is this? It's just incredible. And it gave me such a sense of gratitude for what this country is. And I just think that that's something that is missing in this generation. Because being grateful, one is to have the humility to understand that wherever you're at, you didn't get there by yourself. Somebody helped you get there. Somebody opened doors for you. Somebody mentored you. Some good people along the way made it happen. And I am very grateful and grateful for this country. And maybe that's why I fight so hard and want to improve conditions for other Latinos. Because we talk about equal opportunity to achieve the American dream, that in America you have equal opportunity. But when you're talking about 33% of Latinos don't have a high school diploma, a driver's license, don't speak English, these are major barriers to opportunity. And until we can improve on those conditions, then I don't think we can truly say we have equal opportunity. But it takes us to do that as a community. I saw it in my parents. They learned English. They got their driver's license. They worked hard to save enough money to risk it in a business. And if they could have learned English quicker, got a driver's license quicker, that would have accelerated their process to success in America. And taking those lessons in life is what has helped me, driving LIBRE, to make sure that we are in the communities, extending a hand, helping fellow Latinos to learn English, get a GED, get a driver's license, get their citizenship. Incredible barriers that if we remove them, we can transform their lives, and we have thousands of them across the country. But that they also learn that they have the potential to be a vanguard for freedom. That, to those that much is given, much is asked. And that they step up and be inheritors of this incredible legacy of America enshrined in our Constitution. Our aim is to boldly advocate for those policies that we know generate prosperity, increase productivity, and prepare the way to live all Americans, Latino or non-Latino. We need each other. We're interdependent. For America to be successful, Latinos need to be successful. And for Latinos to be successful, America needs to be successful and strong and have a vibrant economic freedom. But to do that, we must work to make sure that those who create value are rightly rewarded for their ingenuity and risk-taking, and those who desire to improve their lot in life are given a chance to succeed and given proper access to the marketplace. I'm going to wrap it up now by saying we are the inheritors of those American principles that made America great. We must not apologize for our prosperity, for our global influence, and we must not apologize for American might, but use it for good, to protect the vulnerable, and to model proper governance for others to follow. It's a charge we must keep, for American-style democracy and freedom must not perish from the face of the earth, not on our watch. I'll end it by quoting the great economist Thomas Sowell. It doesn't matter what rights you have under the Constitution of the United States if the government can punish you for exercising those rights. And it doesn't matter what limits the Constitution puts on government officials' power if they can exceed those limits without any adverse consequences. In other words, the Constitution cannot protect you if you do not protect the Constitution with your votes against anyone who violates it. These government officials who want more power are not going to stop unless they get stopped. And as long as millions of Americans vote on the basis of who gives them free stuff, look for their freedom, and all our freedom, to be eroded away bit by bit. Our children and grandchildren may yet come to see the Constitution as just some quaint words from the past that people once took seriously. God, I hope that doesn't happen. Will you join me in that fight? Thank you. Thank you so much for that.
Let's open it up for Q&A. Let's have Q&A. Anybody have any questions?
I want to, everybody, I have the pleasure of working with Daniel. He's our president, and I'm the strategic director for the LIBRE Initiative here in North Carolina. So I hope to connect a lot of you after today. And just to reiterate what Daniel has said, I myself, I'm a military retiree. I have a bachelor's degree. I went on to obtain positions of higher responsibility within the Army, Special Operations, and when I retired, I went to work as a contractor for the government as well too, in places where I couldn't even tell you. Latino, Bay, right here, I'm from North Carolina. But I too was a high school dropout. Through circumstances, I didn't have to go help my parents in the field, but through other circumstances in life, drove me to leave high school. But I found my way. I was able to achieve my high school equivalency diploma and get back on the right track. And but again, it's the opportunities that are there, and opportunities that we get to have the chance to seize on for our benefit. A lot of the hardship that I encounter, a lot of the hardship that you encounter, we can attribute to a state of mind that we have in our attitude towards those challenges that we see in life. We can either choose to go in a corner and cry about how unfair our life is as Latinos, how we think that everybody's against us, or we can just be the better man in the room and say, like, just like you said yourself, what am I doing here? Why am I the one in this position right now to be able to influence and lead a team of people that are leaders? I have an economic person who studied economics in Venezuela, a gentleman that's marketing expert, and I have a dentist right here, right? Without going far back, we think about this. But life is a series of challenges, and that's it. We see that every day in our community, in North Carolina, and across our state. Janet knows all about that. And you take the opportunity to talk to people. When life brings you down, it's okay to take a knee. It's okay to take a knee and face off, just like we used to say in the military. But you gotta get yourself back out there. You can't dwell on what could have been or whatever, or what the circumstances that got you to where you are. You can only get up and continue to march on, make the best of the situation that life is dealing with. Because you can recover economically, spiritually, and to continue to have the right mindset. A lot of the people that we encounter have businesses. Some of them are successful, some of them are not. But those are stories that we encounter every day, and we challenge people every single day to go ahead and if this doesn't work out, here are the resources, either through personal or private means or through the state or the federal government that can help you get back to the right track. And that's what we want. We just want that Latinos, we don't want a handout. We just want the government to create the right opportunity. Everybody wants to be able to, the government to create the right opportunities for all of us here to be successful. And thank you for sharing that, Daniel, because that your story is so much relatable to not just Latinos, but a lot of people that are coming from hardworking families that are trying to rise up in a I don't want to say if you can do it, anybody can do it, but with the right mentality and the right attitude in life, you can become anything you want to become in this country. I am a Dominican immigrant, by the way. I came from the Dominican Republic. I was sitting here with Puerto Ricans, Colombians, and Venezuelans who are working every day to let people know that if you lose this opportunity that we have been given in this great experiment, as Garza just mentioned, we're looking at Venezuela, we're looking at Cuba, we're looking at other places that don't have the right conditions to create the path for people to have and endure, people to have freedom, people to have the economic conditions to become. Some people don't want to be there. They just want to be able to have the right economic conditions, to have their business, to be able to live comfortable in life, and be successful in this country. And that's what we at the LIBRE Initiative, through this Daniel Dark leadership, that's what we're doing. And I want to thank each and every one of you, because I want to count each and every one of you to make that possible for the people of North Carolina. Thank you.
No, absolutely, no, I really appreciate that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm interested to hear how you feel that the Trump administration, the policies have either helped or I mean, I've heard a lot of stuff in the news, but you know, the benefits and maybe the.
Yeah, look, in my observation, what I'm seeing is an administration that is putting forward solutions. The Big Beautiful Bill, for example, is one that the intent, the policy intent, is to increase productivity of energy sources, which, if we do that, powers transportation, homes, industry, and the more energy, more availability, the less it's going to cost. The less it's going to cost, the less the prices for electricity and gas and everything else. So there is a point to it, right? That there's an intent in driving down inflation because of that. The fact that more people would have money in their pockets, that we were going to have a massive tax increase of historic proportions at a time when we were just coming off really a recession, would have been devastating to the economy and would have set us back. And so the Big Beautiful Bill stopped that. Also, a lot of the deregulation that he's talking about, that he's putting in place, I think is tremendous. I think it also does a lot for Latino entrepreneurs to start up businesses, to make it easier to sort of prepare the table so that more folks can launch businesses. That the working class, especially waiters, famously, can now keep more money in their pocket as well by not taxing tips, not taxing overtime. So the intent is there, the solutions are there, and they fought hard to pass it. We joined that fight in a bunch of campaigns, and it just seems to me like the center left has done everything to stop it. This I hate Trump agenda of obstruction and hindering, undermining our legislative process. Right now we're in a shutdown because they want to tack on more spending and include more on the spending than a clean bill. I think is an affront to Americans, who have had to pay more, who have had to go through. What happened with the inflation under Biden was really devastating to the Latino community. Folks were just barely getting by from paycheck to paycheck because everything was 20% more across the board on average. Everything from medicines to rent to gas that you put in your car, to food, of course, was really devastating. But there was no matching wage increases to go with it. The ability to buy a home was hindered because, of course, interest rates went up to 9, 10, 12%. In some cases, predatory lending. And unfortunately, in the Latino community, not a lot of us have good credit. You get the high end of the interest rates, which makes home ownership almost impossible. And so inflation, high interest rates, the lack of production and energy really brought us to our knees. And what I mean by knees, we were scraping our knees in prayer, praying to God that we make it from one week to the next. And in our conversations with Gerardo and the team can tell you this is what we heard from Latinos from door to door and on our phone calls and in the town halls that we had. So I see a reversal of policy on this. And I see one side trying to get things done, real solutions, and I see the other side tripping up the process, hindering the process. And I think Latinos are seeing that too. I think one of the biggest reasons why you're seeing Latinos distance themselves from the Democratic Party, and you see this massive shift that is not only happening in Texas and Florida, but now you see it in California. There's studies where it shows that the more Latino a precinct is in California, the redder it gets. And I think that's because this lack of real solutions that can improve in the economy, on their economic condition, on their economic future for their children. And the hindering also of, or this fight to keep parents from choosing the kind of education that they want for their children is also, I think, turning off a lot of Latinos. And so look, when of course, with the Trump administration, he's a person who thinks out loud. He's a bit coarse. We have, you can talk about the president's style, but when it comes to substance, I think Latinos are seeing this is a man who wants to set things right, who wants to make sure that we have the proper conditions for economic productivity to increase.
Somebody had any further questions?
Yeah, I heard your message about economic opportunity, etc., which of course I wholeheartedly agree with. And it's disheartening sometimes to see mobs of Latino protesters in the streets waving Mexican flags, etc., as opposed to having that same recognition you did as to the opportunities this country afforded you. And so I'm wondering what sort of programs you might have in North Carolina or anywhere in the country to reach the youth and younger voters in particular, to try to get to them in a different way, a different message.
Yeah. So I saw that side of the Latino community growing up, which I didn't agree with. The activists, los sindicatos, the unionists, the folks with their hands, their fists in the air, angry at America, angry at their lack of opportunity, resentful for being on the outside looking in. And then, and I would be sympathetic to their sentiments, but I wholeheartedly disagree with their solutions, right? And it was always looking to government to strong arm, to impose, to change things in the private sector. It was government who could provide you subsidies, programs, funding, just about everything under the sun, right? And this dependence on government that I just negatively reacted to. And so that turned me into who I am today, right? A conservative who believes in limited government, who doesn't want to depend on a politician to have them have control over you and your lives and the lives of your families, but to be independent, to leverage your own skills and talents in the marketplace, which is why we created LIBRE after the White House. It was during my time at the White House, I realized there was no national Latino organizations that did this kind of work. There was National Council of La Raza, there was LULAC, there was MALDEF, there was Mi Familia Vota, there were all these other center-left national organizations taking money from government, taking money from corporations and for donors, and then using it to provide services, and then using the data of those services to get them then to vote their way. And it was a scam. It was a scam that was going on. We take no government money, never, no programs, no funding, and so But to answer your question, there is no silver bullet. There's not one thing that you do that gets young people. It is a score of things. It's social media, of course. It's meeting them where they're at. It's holding conversations with them. It's engaging them. It's hiring them. It's taking their narratives and who they are and what their priorities are and addressing their priorities. I talked about, like the left would impose an agenda. I mean, to them, you would think that every Latino, their priority is the green agenda, is transgender issues. The hell cares about that stuff when you can't put food on the table, right? And so the priorities were very different. And I think Latinos finally sort of said, enough of that, right? You're either going to listen to what, what our priorities are, and then act accordingly, or we're just going to stop listening to you. But no, they kept doing the same thing, imposing an agenda that wasn't a priority to them. And I think that's another reason why Latinos are just rejecting, a lot of folks on the left. But it is just this constant messaging. It is communicating in Spanish and English. I would probably nail it down to 3 things, and this is for all Americans, really. But this is what we focus on. You need to connect, and connecting means you have to show you care. Because if people think you don't care about them, then nothing else you say matters. Showing up is a way of showing that you care. Spending money, hiring them, being sensitive to their priorities is a way of showing you care. So connect it. Second, make your case. Why are your ideas superior to the other side? What are the outcomes, the historic outcomes of what you're proposing? What have they been in the past? Will it make us richer, stronger, more prosperous, and freer? Then I'm in, right? But you have to make your case. And third, stay. Come around. Be familiar with the Latino community as a candidate, as an elected leader. Folks, in South Texas do that very well. Folks like Ted Cruz and John Cornyn, just as an example in my own state, they came around to the Rio Grande Valley 10 times more than their Democrat counterparts. And it made a difference. It showed that they cared. Right? And so, again, no silver bullet, but it's just a persistent agenda of communicating and dialogue.
We're going to wrap it up with one more question. Anybody have anything you want to ask? Besides the dollar thing, right? Well, Dan, thank you very much.
Pleasure. Thank you so much.
Gerardo Laura, the director of the North Carolina chapter of LIBRE, I wanted to make sure that we got your name. And I apologize, I meant to introduce you in the beginning. But you guys are doing such amazing work, and I'm not just trying to say that glibly. I mean, I'm really 100% behind you, and I hope that if there's anything that I can do, please let me know. I mean, I don't have a whole lot of power, but at least I have this podium, and we can invite more people. Thank you. That was so inspiring. Your story. I'm from California, and we did have a chance to talk a little bit about the Central Valley, and I'm sure you worked there, and your parents were there too. So thank you very much, everyone, for coming. We hope that you'll take a few minutes and scan the electronic, I guess you call it what do you call it? Yeah. And make a donation, and we will see you next month. Thank you very much.